The second part of 7.4 is still using those same three properties, so you should have them written down or screenshot somewhere to reference, but this time going the other direction, which is expanding them, taking them from a single log and pulling them apart to get them to be two or more logs. This is actually the technique that's more prevalent in higher level math classes. I feel like condensing happens a very little bit, but expanding, if you do eventually get to like a calculus level class, you'll find that you'll be using this skill more than the previous video. So what I did, most of these are copied directly from Delta Math. I just wanted you to get something very authentic to what they're going to ask. What they're going to say on Delta Math, and I'll kind of show you for a second here, is they're going to say something like, expand, you can see the directions here, expand fully using the properties, and it will ask you to just leave your answer in terms of the log of x or the log of y. Like they'll have a variety of ones. You'll have ones that look something like this, where it has x's and y's, and it asks you to pull it apart. One thing I really like about Delta Math is they don't mess around with complicated bases. So you'll notice that all the ones in Delta Math are just common log. So no base written, which just makes it easier for you as you're entering problems. So let's get to these. So we're going to pull this apart. First thing you want to do when you're pulling it apart is see if things are being multiplied or divided. If it's being multiplied, you're going to pull it apart with addition. If it's being divided, you're going to pull it apart with subtraction. So this first one, we have the x squared and the y being multiplied. That's way too thick. So we're going to pull it apart as the log of x squared plus the log of y. So that's your first step, is to see if it's being multiplied or divided. Your second step, and usually your final step, is anything has a power, that power is going to come in front of the logarithm. So your final answer here would be 2 log of x plus log of y. If it doesn't have a power, then there's nothing to pull out front. And that's your final answer, and that's what you're going to type in Delta Math. The next one is also multiplied. You have an 8 times an x squared, so you're going to pull it apart as the log of 8 plus the log of x squared. Pull apart each factor as a separate log. And then the second term has a power that's going to come in front. So you're going to have the log of 8 plus 2 log of x. And you won't have to worry about doing extra simplifying beyond that. Next one is more multiplication. I would say multiplication is more common than division. So you're going to pull that apart to log of x plus the log of y squared, or sorry, y to the fifth. And then you're going to pull that 5 to the very front of that log. So you get the log of x plus 5 log of y. The next one is a division. So when you're pulling apart division, when you're expanding division, you're going to use subtraction. So you're going to have the log of x to the fifth minus the log of y to the fourth, since it's divided. And then both of them have a power, so both of them are going to need that power brought out front. So you're going to have 5 log of x minus 4 log of y. Do a few more. Here's ones that are a little more complicated. Delta Math has it broken down into like level 1 versus level 2. So these are level 2 problems when you have more things going on. Same idea though. What you'll notice, if you have anything being divided and all 4 of these have division, you want to pull that apart first. So you want to write it as the log of z cubed x to the fourth minus the log of y. So if you have anything being divided in your log, pull it apart with subtraction first. Then I'm going to look for multiplication. So I have multiplication here. So I'm going to pull that apart to log of z cubed plus log of x to the fourth. And I still have this minus log of y. And then my last step every time should be bringing those powers in front. So I have 3 log z plus 4 log x. And I had this minus log y the whole time that's just kind of waiting. So that whole thing is what you'd type in Delta Math as your answer. These can get kind of long when you have more terms or more factors in your log. So the next one, I'm going to pull apart the division with subtraction. So I'm going to have log. Now, this is written kind of strange. When I have a radical and a power, I want to think about what power actually is that. So I want to do power over root. It's currently the fifth power, the square root. So that's actually going to be z to the 5 halves power. Fifth power, square root is the 1/2 power. And then I still have the y squared minus log of x to the fourth. I'm going to pull apart the multiplication. So I'm going to have the log of z to the 5 halves plus the log of y squared, and then minus the log of x to the fourth. And then finally, I have a whole bunch of powers. Every single term has a power that comes in front. So I get 5 halves log z plus 2 log y minus 4 log x. So the more values, so if you look at this, you have 3 variables. You know that when you're done, you're going to have 3 terms because you're going to have a log of z term, you're going to have a log of y term, and you're going to have a log of x term. Here's how we handle it if we have 2 things in the denominator. And this is a really common mistake. I've run into these problems in calculus, and they make the same mistake even though they learned logarithms a couple years ago. When you're pulling apart something and you have multiple terms in the denominator, you need to write it as log of y to the 4th minus log of x to the 5th, and then another minus since the z is also in the bottom. Essentially, it's like you're distributing a minus sign. Everything that's in the bottom, every factor, every term should be written as a subtraction to show that it's in the denominator. So that's why there's a minus sign here and there's a minus sign here. At this point, I am ready to bring those powers out front. So I have 4 log of y minus 5 log of x minus just a log of z, no power in front of that one. And that is my final answer. But you do want to make sure that anything that's in the denominator originally, when you write that condensed log, your expanded form should have minus signs in front of those terms. And finally, the last one, same idea here. We're going to have a lot of minus signs here because of so much in the bottom. So we're going to have the log of z to the 5th minus the log of, this is currently y to the 2nd power 3rd root. So we're going to write it as y to the 2/3 power. And then another minus, excuse me, the log of x. And the reason, again, those are both subtracted because they're both in the denominator. So it's kind of like you're using that quotient property for both pieces. And then finally bring the power out front. So 5 log z minus 2/3 log y minus log x. Those are about as ugly as you can get when you have lots of terms, you have more stuff in the denominator. So everything you're going to do from here on out in Delta Math will be focusing on expansion. So you have condensing, taking multiple logs and writing it as one, and then you have expanding, taking a single log and writing it as multiple.